Hello everyone, welcome on in. It is the Betting Weekly Dojo. It is a new week and we're going to discuss some betting trends, some habits, some good things and some bad things about the betting industry. And to do so, one of the good things about the betting industry is joining me. It is my good friend and our co-host on the dojo. It is Neil Channing. Good morning to you, Neil.
Good morning. Yes, well, that's very sweet of you. It's we're doing it a day late because obviously it was Super Bowl Sunday, and if you're not stateside, that's a very late night for you watching the Super Bowl. We didn't manage to get out of bed in time yesterday. But
hang on, you say we?
Well, mostly me.
Okay.
It was a long day actually. I felt like I had a disappointing Super Bowl in terms of the results. I bet over quite a lot of players, and obviously with the interceptions, Philly scored. Even though it was a high-scoring game, the game went over. They didn't really get the yardage because they got great field position a couple of times, and the one killer, the real bad beat of the whole Super Bowl, is one of my biggest bets of the Super Bowl. I was under 49.5 yards on the longest field goal made, and deep into the fourth quarter, Philadelphia get a chance of a 45-yard field goal, which is not going to affect my bet. I'm feeling pretty good about my bet, and there's a 5-yard penalty, which makes it a 50-yard attempt. And the guy would have got it from 70. I mean, it absolutely sailed through. That was exceptionally painful at that time in the morning. But I felt it's weird. I lost on the Super Bowl. I felt like I had some brilliant bets. I had a lot of bets that me and my mate came up with earlier in the week. And I really liked the work that he did. But then on the Saturday, I sort of spent my time scouring various bookmaker prices, and with all these same game parlays, there's so much to go through now. And I actually find a lot of the ones on this side of the pond, they're quite derivative. It's we know that the total's 48, so it's not that hard really to work out the correct price on 55 or 41 or whatever. So when there's just reams and reams of things where, it's essentially a slightly different bet, just with the total points at 49, the total points at 50, the total points at 52, combined with three other things, it just takes up page after page. I find when I'm looking at the American sites, looking at places like Bet Rivers, they just seem to have more interesting props that you actually had to think about, and they weren't just kind of computer generated. I mean, the ones in the UK, it's like they're done by AI, really.
Probably are.
Yeah. Well, they could be, couldn't they? I've heard rumours that in one or two of the UK firms, they're laying off a bunch of people that used to be, odd setters who are now, they're trying not to use that anymore, and they're trying to make everything more automated. Props like I did find some interesting ones. I bet Philadelphia to get the most possession, time of most possession. I don't think that's one that's a bit more of an opinion one, and I got a nice price about that. That was one of my better ones, but I think on those kind of ones, I had great value. I sent them over to an American friend of mine and said some of these I'm going on gut reaction and feel, and I haven't actually seen what I've only seen them with one firm. Have you seen them anywhere else? Do you know how this compares to the market? And he came back and he was just like, where the hell have you found these? I'd bet things at minus 130 that he'd seen other bookmakers were minus 190. So I definitely had good bets, but I did my money. Painful.
I think that's going to be on my tombstone.
Yeah. Had the value,
done his money.
Did his nuts.
Great bets, but didn't show anything for it. Yeah, that's pretty much how it is in a nutshell.
But actually, my mindset, and people might find this strange, is I just don't really, I sent someone a text. Someone sent me a text before, just, 3 hours before the game, and said, how are you getting on? And I said, well, I feel like I've done brilliantly. And they said, well, all we need now is for the game to work out the way we want. And I said, well, I don't really care about that. I feel like once they've kicked off, I've done my bit. Like, it doesn't. I can't control the rest of it. If I went to bed, early Monday morning, feeling like I did a brilliant job, but
Exactly. That's all you got to do. I mean, I bet a tennis player this week. Very rarely do I have a decent bet on a tennis player, but I bet Iga Świątek this week in Qatar, and I made a really valid point of it. And I thought, you know what, I've done really well to make this point with Rory, and I convinced Rory Giovanni to have a bet.
I watched the show. You convinced me.
I convinced. Well, I mean, without the favourite, I've read the market completely right. Świątek is now from 4-1 down to 2-1, and the pre-tournament favourite Sabalenka's gone from 5-2 plus 250 out to 4-1. So I've read it right, and now she's got to do what she's supposed to do. I feel like I've done my job, and
whatever happens,
that's all you need to do.
You've done your job. That's it. That's all. And I think if you can get that mindset, I was playing a poker tournament the other night, and it was one of those hands where it's just a flip, just a straight coin flip, and this guy hit a set on the flop, and the other guy made a straight. And he went mad in the chat box going on about how lucky the other guy was. Well, nobody did anything wrong. They both played correctly. And just the way that the cards came out at the end is completely irrelevant, really. I think that's, if you can get to that mindset, it makes life quite a bit easier. People often say to me, like, this is a fairly strange thing to do for a living. You can work really hard all week and then get no wages, which is pretty unusual in a job. But I feel like the job is just the EV that you get along the way.
Yeah, or you get a month's wages in a week. I mean, that's the difference. It's the risk you've got to take. And if you haven't seen some of the early dojos where Neil's talking about his start in programming, there's some great dojos there giving you some advice if you want to come that way. Before we go into this week's topic and before we talk about the subjects we're talking about, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. Lots of new subscribers coming in all the time. Thank you very much. It's really, really good to have you along. If you've got any questions you want to ask us, anything else you want to go through, let us know on here. Please hit that subscribe button and do join us here on the dojo. Lots and lots of subscribers. And hit that like button as well. That's very, very important to get that likes. We're getting very close to 8,000 subscribers on this channel. We want to hit 10,000 before Wimbledon. That is the game. And we want very close to having 1 million views as well. So with your help, we can do that in a little bit quicker time, which sets the algorithms up for the YouTube analytics. Talking about props. One of my props in the Super Bowl, I bet Venus Williams to start. It's his show up in the halftime show. Serena Williams showed up. Just before we leave the Super Bowl behind, which is a bit of a topic. What was the over/under challenge bets at the end of it? And how many A4 sheets were written in?
I got it all onto one A4 sheet.
Right.
I think I ended up with 33 bets, which is it's a decent number.
It's 33. I prefer 36, but 33 is a decent number, I must admit. And what we're going to talk about here on the show this week is sort of the downside after a long season. Obviously, we talk a lot about American football here because our sponsors are Bet Rivers, American Sportsbook. We have a huge amount of American bettors who watch this show. But we can sort of relate this to Premier League football, to the soccer season. However, so when you get to the end of a long season, you've done it and you've gone through months. I mean, the season started in February. When did it start? In September. September through to February. You're sort of all down because there's nothing to bet on. The season's over. You've had a good or a bad season. Do you sort of look at the anti-post? Do you have time off, or do you suddenly jump straight into whatever's going on the week before? Before I ask you this question, Neil, for me, when the Premier League season starts or finishes, I am so up for it. You will not believe. I'm going to make the fortunes. I'm going to have anti-post parlays that are going to make me, I'm going to retire a very rich man. I'm going to buy a house in the Seychelles. I'm going to win the lot. By Christmas, my optimism is down. By the end of the season, I just can't wait.
You need a break.
To get a break. Yeah, but unfortunately,
and that football, the soccer, it just goes on and on, doesn't it? There's never a break. I mean, there's always like the Euros or the World Cup, or there's some mini tour. I don't know. I see people on my timeline, they're tweeting about pre-season games and friendlies. I just think, can't you just have a holiday? For God's sake, just take some time off from it. It must do your head in.
There's Scandinavian football going on. People who are like tipsters on social media are giving you tips in Norway and stuff like that. I mean, I couldn't even think of anything worse than studying the league, thinking I'm my next money in 6-week period. So I'm absolutely delighted when the football season's over. I think that's brilliant. I love that break. I can concentrate on some tennis, go straight into tennis. Wimbledon will be started. It's great. But when I feel absolutely heartbroken and I'm in despair, is when a World Cup ends or European Football Championships. Because at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock, you're sitting watching the football. You're coming back. You got to watch, I don't know, the chase or something like that. And I'm absolutely devastated when it's a short period of a sport. Or Wimbledon, when Wimbledon finished, anything over a short period, I think, that's that. I really enjoyed that. But long periods, I'm so relieved because I'm done.
I find with the NFL, I had a few years. I've been following the NFL now for like 30 years. And they're definitely, I would say 7 or 8 years ago, it was 5 or 6 years ago maybe, I just took a break from it. I tuned out of it. I didn't really get too involved every week. And I still was interested in the playoffs and stuff, but I just took a bit of a break from it. I don't know why. I think I must have had a bad year in it. I think the year before, and I thought next year I'm not going to do NFL. But I'm right back into it now, and I had a winning season in the regular season. It was looking a bit dicey for a while, and we started off really quite poorly. I think there was 1 week where I had 11,
I can remember it. We could tell was on it.
9 losers.
When we saw your face that morning, I knew there was a serious problem.
Mind you, the next week, I think the week after that, I had something like 8 bets and 7 winners, and
we saw your face that week, and we knew as well. You're a poker player, Neil. You're supposed to show any emotion. You could get on for 2 weeks there.
The second half of the season was amazing, actually, and then the playoffs were pretty disappointing. A bad time in the playoffs, and obviously the Super Bowl. So losing in the playoffs, losing in the Super Bowl. I won my main futures bet on Philly making winning the NFC Championship. So that was good. But there was a small profit on NFL this year, but for the work I didn't really get my whack out of it. And I think there was a danger, isn't there? Obviously there's an emotional letdown because you've been very invested in it. I don't stay invested in NFL now. I don't look at the draft. Never looked at it. Not interested in that. I think it's overrated. People spend way too much time talking about it relative to what difference it makes when the season comes around. So I just don't waste any time.
I've never seen. I mean, I look at the anti-post market. I mean, we were pushing it. Bet Rivers are up now for the anti-post markets on the Super Bowl. I've never seen huge live movement on the draft. It's not like someone goes from 66 to 1 to 12 to 1. There's no
little bit of that, but I mean, the markets are so illiquid, it's meaningless really, and I can't really get those kind of bets on very easily, and it's not going. I have limited outs. The people that I'm betting with don't want me to ring up and say, "Can you have $1,000 on a 50 to 1 chance?" That's not really the business that the bookies that I can still get on with are looking to take. Especially if it goes 20 to 1 from that, that's basically the end of that out. So I don't really like to do that kind of thing. And then the preseason, I used to be really into that, and I used to bet on the preseason games. I never do that anymore. So I probably won't really switch on to it until early September. Really.
Why is that? Is it because you think there's no value there, or is it think you've done enough in your career that
it's always to do with getting on, Nigel? It's always to do with getting on. I mean,
but if you could get on, would you still be doing the same things you were doing before?
I mean, I think the preseason offers brilliant value in NFL, but like the bets I was having on the Super Bowl, the bookmakers are rubbing their hands together and saying, "Look at this bloke! He's having dozens of bets." I mean, it's funny. I got one of the firms. I think I deposited 9 times with one company, and I kept having more and more on different things. And I had to fill in a survey about problem gambling. And I think I got the questions right. You basically just answered no to every question.
Just put 1 on the scale of 1 to 10. You put 1 all the time. You'll be all right for me.
But I mean, it's stupid, really, because they're like, we seem to have noticed that you're upping your level of activity on this account where you literally only bet American football. Is that because you're chasing your losses? No, it's because it's the Super Bowl, you morons. I mean, and you've got 1,050 markets available, which you don't normally have. I mean, what like it's so stupid. The whole problem gambling issue is, the way it's dealt with by bookmakers is ridiculous. But that's probably one for another day.
I had two more emails on Monday morning about that. We've noticed that you've sent your. I've just got it straight delete.
I thought that was funny though. They're saying, we notice you're upping your levels of betting. Yeah, of course. It's the biggest game of the year. What did you expect?
Same thing for me. I'm betting on tennis each week. Bet a couple of bets on Montpellier, a couple of bets in Rotterdam. Wimbledon comes on. I have 25 bets in round one. Oh, you say these 2 weeks you up your betting? Well, hang on. There could be a reason why that is. It's madness. But anyway.
But no, the answer to your basic question is I leave NFL behind. I actually kind of stopped following some people on Twitter. I don't need to hear what they're saying about. I'll keep Doug. I like Doug. But I generally speaking, there's a lot of people. They're giving valuable information about the NFL. I don't really need to hear what they're saying about the NBA for the next 3 months. I couldn't care less. I'll probably take a total break from NFL. And it's weird because now I'm switching to sport. I have been playing on the golf a little bit the last few weeks, the PGA Tour I like. I like to play on that. And there's bigger tournaments now. There's a lot of we're in the run up to the Masters. People are starting to put their schedule together and prepare for the Masters. Rory McIlroy won a tournament a couple of weeks ago. The big names are starting to play. So I like that. The tennis, I mean, you came down to Montpellier and we went to some tennis. And I've had the song in my head ever since you then went to Rotterdam. I've been singing that to myself, that Beautiful South. Was it the Beautiful South? It was a beautiful South.
It was the Beautiful South.
And
it could be, when you got there, Neil, it could have been Liverpool or Rome.
It could have been Liverpool or Rome. Anyway. I've had, Sean Calvert's been in great form on the tennis. I don't really, it's not a sport I know that much about, really, weirdly. I've bet on it for years. I'm very happy just to follow him in, and I've been following him. He's been on a golden run, really, hasn't he? So that's been quite good. I think you guys were behind, weren't you, on tennis for the year, and you flipped to being in front now.
Yeah, quite way in front. I mean, he's had a good run. He does go on runs, though. I mean, he does got... With tennis, you either read the tournament completely right or you read it completely wrong, and you think it's going to be quick, you think it's going to be fast, you think this player's going to struggle, and you get it right or you get it wrong. And it goes back to your point: the ones that you get right, you have more bets in the tournaments. The ones you get wrong, and if you lose your money in the first round, it's very hard to get it back. And then obviously your future pick is wrong as well. But the last couple of tournaments we've read pretty right, and the fact that we go to the tournaments, I think is a huge advantage for anyone who's betting it because, I was in the last week.
Well, I saw you hanging around in the players' lounge with your old mate El Garoon.
Well, that was it. That was in the hotel bar, but in the hotel, and that then.
Was it Berrettini? Did you see Berrettini had a dodgy shoulder?
I had a few little bits of info that I knew he was going to be a little bit injured, but he played a lot better than I should have done. But when you're actually there, you can see it, and that's the advantage that we have over here. When it's almost we're not there, and I don't think it's to me it's no coincidence. Of course, coincidence for me, easy for me to say. I don't think it's no coincidence that whenever we're at a tournament, we have a winning tournament. So that to me shows you the value of following it when we're at the tournament. And Sean is over in Florida at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. But in answer, like some people people often ask me about stakes and stuff, and I don't really like to talk specific numbers too much on this show because I think if someone thinks, "Wow, that's a big amount," I don't want to encourage other people to bet more than they're comfortable in betting, and I don't want to sound like a flash Harry. But then on the other hand, if other people think, well, that's a small amount, he's a two bob, this guy, he doesn't really bet for a living. I don't want to get into those debates. I bet the amount I bet, and it's not really other people's business. But I can tell you that relative to the Super Bowl, the bets I've had on the tennis this week are tiny. But I would say I've bet, from those 33 bets I had on the Super Bowl, were the smallest one was about the size of what I've bet on these tennis matches this week. So I think I've bet 3 tennis matches that Sean puts up. I'll probably have a little look at the golf this week, and What else have we got? Yeah, there's some football.
Champions League this week.
We've got some football. I haven't been getting massively involved in the Champions League. I'm quite involved in the FA Cup. I played some futures in the FA Cup. I think we were talking about that because of the demise of Man City. And again, I might as well repeat this.
Who are now plus 175 favourites.
Yeah, of course.
They've got Plymouth at home,
Absolutely cracking along now. But they were 1-0 down, weren't they, the other day against, who was that?
Leyton Orient.
Orient, yeah. And for quite a long time, they were still 1-0 down at like 70 minutes. I thought we were going to get them out. But I think you made a brilliant point. Those futures markets on things like the FA Cup, it's a big enough market that I can have a bet on it without people getting all alarmed and thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? We've got to kick him out. But it's a small enough market these days. The FA Cup's lost a lot of its luster that the firms are not really keeping it up to date properly. I mean, when you talked about, having futures prices available for next year's Super Bowl, the downside of betting in that market, apart from the problems of getting down, is that there's quite a big margin on it. They'll have 10 teams and under 12 to 1 or something like that. It's just like, it's really not that much edge. You're fighting against a big bookmaker margin. But I think with something like the FA Cup, you're not really betting, each book's probably 2% a team on their margin. And if you shop around, and then you've got the thing that they stick the prices up and then they don't adjust it for the league form. So, yeah, I tend to do that most years, actually. And we talked about it and you reminded me. So
usually
you
get a big value
semi-finalist. They make the semi-final and then they lose to Man United.
The amount of times I've had Wolves, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United back in the day, get great run, 80-1, semi-finalists. They're 10-1 against Man United,
right.
Peak Man United, peak Chelsea, peak Arsenal, and they're gallant losers.
I bet 3 this year. I've got Forest, Fulham, and Bournemouth. So that's my.
You got a good show here. You might get a finalist.
They were all like 33 or 40-1. So I got a couple of them have shortened up. Well, they've all shortened up slightly. So yeah, I've got that. I've got that to look forward to. I'll be watching those, and I'm prepping. I'll be prepping for Cheltenham. That'll be the next big thing, which is people stateside probably not really into that. It's a horse race meet annually, jumps racing, so jumping over obstacles. Huge betting event in the UK, and that happens early in March. There's big futures betting on it, but the betting on the day is incredible, and the competition between the books is pretty big, and lots of offers and bet boosts and whatever. And I suppose for people stateside, the next big betting event is pretty much at the same time as March Madness, the college basketball. I can't say I've ever really got involved in that because the markets with the European books are not really so big on that, and it's a bit harder to get down, and I don't really feel like I know much about it.
Well, I think that's the point. The important thing then was when you come to the end of the season and you're an expert on NFL and you're an expert on Premier League football or soccer, I think when you see these people and you touch on it, you see like handicaps suddenly now the NFL season, but I'm going to give you stuff on the NBA. I'm going to give you stuff on the ice hockey. I'm going to give you stuff on rugby over here. I'm going to give you stuff on cricket seasons here. I'll give you stuff on cricket. You can't be an expert on everything. So I think as a bettor, I think if you've had a brilliant season on the football, I think you need downtime where I don't think you should really, really bet unless you're watching a show like this and you value an opinion of somebody. But on your own opinion, I think if you had a good year, get on an aeroplane, go on holiday, have a couple of weeks off, enjoy your time, and rebuild when the season comes on.
I can definitely see the argument for that. Unfortunately, I never do that.
Yeah, but you're different because this is your living.
Well, I'm kind of permanently on holiday anyway.
Yeah, but this is your living, right? So you can't change. And over the years, you've built up a certain set of people that you trust on those sports, and working in the industry for as long as you've done, you've got a pretty decent opinion on. But I'm talking about normal bettors, a guy who's a good bettor, watches show, who's very, very good on American football. If he's had a good season and he's made a couple of thousand, why invest? Why suddenly then? Okay, now it's the NBA. I'm going to make it. You could give all the hard work away. I would definitely carry on with my work, treat my family to holiday, and just
I
ease
think
down until the season comes
American
back.
punters have still got quite a good betting time coming up because the college basketball is enormous and there's definitely opportunities in it. In all the things that we like to play, things like teams get an upset, so then they have the emotional high of beating a hot favourite. Now they're going to let down in the next game. Those kind of things, recency bias, people getting carried away about one result. That kind of stuff is highly magnified in things like March Madness because the whole of the nation's media is watching, and so teams getting talked up after a big win. That's the kind of thing, and the market getting carried away. In a way, you don't really need to know much about basketball. You just need to know about human, the way the brain works, and cognitive stuff, and the way that markets work. So I think from that point of view, it's still quite a good opportunity. Obviously, the NBA season is hotting up. It doesn't really come to an end for a few more months. But I often see American people say, "Oh, yeah, I don't really follow baseball anymore. It's a bit boring." That's funny because not so, the people in America, they love NFL and NBA, and college football, but the baseball is really a kind of forgotten sport almost. And I think it's because a lot of times people don't like betting short ones on the money line. When the money line's minus 225, people are not interested. So then they play the run line, and that's a completely different bet. And it's I don't know. I think, and it lasts quite a long time, doesn't it? I suppose. I guess NFL's long. I don't know what it is. Baseball's gone as a game. The betting turnover on baseball is so small compared with the other sports. But I do see people sort of saying, "Well, I guess I'll have to do baseball now," which I always find quite sad because I think tennis is a great betting sport, golf's a great betting sport, and soccer's a great betting sport, and you can watch all of those things in America. There's no need to force yourself to bet on
No.
baseball just
I
because
think
there's a game every
probably
day.
the decline on baseball in particular in terms of betting medium and turnover could be because of the increase in sports like tennis.
Yeah,
Since
maybe.
sports betting has become legalized across America, I know Bet Rivers has shown huge amount of growth in tennis betting,
Mm,
and people are just getting into sports because they've got it on their apps, they've got it on their phones,
mm.
and with tennis, it's on 24 hours a day. You can, all around the world,
Yeah.
there's a tennis tournament. With a baseball, it's that particular time and a time zone, and tennis is picking up. Golf, I think the problem with golf as a betting medium is that I love betting on golf. I love the Masters, I love the Ryder Cup, but I think we live in an age where people want money now.
It's not instantaneous,
Instant,
is it?
and that's the
Yeah.
problem with it. I mean, you've only got to see the figures on the Live Tour now, and the all the big players on separate tours. I don't think it helps as a betting medium for golf until you get to the Masters or the majors. That's a big problem for you. But I suppose the problem with bettors who sort of give up time, like I'm suggesting, I think your downtime betting is as important as your
It's definitely
betting time.
valuable. Yeah, you need to be rested and ready and prepared. And I will spend the next few weeks, prepping for Cheltenham. I'm into the Oscars as well. It's quite a small betting event. It's hard to get like super big bets on. I love it as a betting event, though. I mean, I really love it.
Any early tips? Any early tips for us?
I haven't done the homework at all yet, but I do. I can tell you a story.
Can you imagine coming to one of these shows and not doing any homework?
It's terrible. I can tell you a story from a few years ago. I was looking through. I spend hours looking at the Oscars, and it gets to like a week before, and I decided that the market in the best short film was between two films. One of them was from Norway, and I can't remember where the other one was from. And I went onto a whole load of sites where people had given their picks in the Oscars, and generally, when you Google for those kind of sites, they only give picks in the kind of main categories: the best actor, best director, best movie, that kind of thing. So you have to get the really kind of geeky sites to find where someone's put up something for the best short film. And I like the ones where they give a proper reasoning. And I read everything I could find on the internet. And I came to the conclusion it's between two. And the betting was, there was a film that was like even money. And then there were two films that were around about 4-1, and the other films were like 20-1. So I think I decided that one of the 4-1 chances was a contest between that one, the Norwegian film that was about 4-1, and the favourite. And I thought, well, I'm probably going to bet both, but I'm mostly going to bet the Norwegian film. So I started having a few bets, and on the exchanges there was a guy trying to have $2,000, which was a massive bet a week before the Oscars. I mean, it's a huge. There's really not that much liquidity, and he was trying to bet $2,000 at like just over 3-1, but several firms had 4-1. I thought, well, it does look between the two, and this guy seems to think he wants to have $2,000 on the, this. Surely the 4-1 can't last. I think I'm going to start betting it. So I started going into the betting shops to bet the 4-1. And
you're going walking around betting shops in London,
yeah,
betting the best short film, a Norwegian film, and you wonder why people don't want your business, Neil. Come on, which is an arbitrage.
I went into the first shop and I wrote out a slip, £100, best short film, whatever it was called. Took it up to the counter. I said, could you ring up and find out the price, please? They got the price. I didn't show them how much I wanted at that stage. And then I showed them the slip. And they said, oh, I don't know, I might have to ring back. And I said, no, I don't think you do. I think you only have to ring back if it wins over 500. Oh, thank you. Yes, that'll save me a phone call. Excellent. Okay, you've got 4-1. There we are. Give me the ticket. Go into the next shop. I got to the 17th shop. And the woman said, you want the best short film in the Oscars, don't you? Like, I'd only just walked in the door. And I said, wow, how do you do that? That's amazing. You must be a mind reader. She said, no, somebody called me. So I said, oh, there you go. So you must know that it's 4-1 then. So she said, no, you can't have 4-1. You can have SP only on it. So for stateside viewers in the UK, horse racing is either settled at the price that you take the bet at the time that you place your bet, or at starting price, which is the kind of average price of all bookmakers at the off time. And if you don't specify that you want to take a price, you get given starting price, which is normally slightly less than you would have got. So generally, you should never take starting price. Anyway, and if you do take starting price, you're kind of considered to be a bit of a square bear. People think you're a bit of not a smart punter. So anyway, she said, no, you can only have SP. I said, well, it's the Oscars. Like, they don't really have SP or the Oscars. She said, well, that's what they've told me. You're SP only on the Oscars. I said, but I don't understand. Like, what is the SP going to be? Who's going to dictate? I said, who decides what the SP is going to be? What, Meryl Streep?
She's a good judge.
She said to me, I ended up arguing with this woman for 20 minutes. She gave me 25 quid on it. And they opened the envelope and the Norwegians won.
I thought we were going to have another thing we got the value, put the hard work in.
It was great.
That was a good one. I thought we were going to have
SP
another
only. Meryl
so
Meryl Streep said we're paying off at 3-1.
Yeah. And the Academy Award goes to Meryl Streep. And I just generally thought that was going to be one of these. We started off with hard luck stories, and I thought we were going to end with a.
Do you know they used to do the Oscars in running. The exchanges would leave the markets open, and as the guy opened the envelope, they would suspend. So you had a chance. So say, for example, a film was doing quite well. It won the best supporting actor, and then it won the best editor. Well, now you might think, well, that means it's definitely going to win the best director because, it seems like this is a popular film. Or if a film was being snubbed and, it's had lots of nominations, but we get halfway through the evening, it's won nothing. Well, now we might want to fade it on the best movie. But the brilliant thing was they used to have sound. They had two categories for sound. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what the difference was between the two, but there was two different things of sound. Yeah, it's definitely beaten me as to what they were. Now they just have one. But it was always like a fastest finger first thing, because as soon as they said the best sound editing goes to, well, then everybody wanted to leap on the other sound one to smash the prize.
I'm
I remember
amazed.
one time it was like the sound editing went to this movie, and that meant that the other sound category went from 6 to 4 to 5 to 1 on. So it went from plus 150 to minus 500. And it was a mad scramble to like wipe the whole thing across.
These are
all
the glory
boxes.
days of exchange betting, because
Oh,
now
so
you
good.
can't even get £100 on a tennis player in the first round
Yeah, that's true.
of a
That's
major
true.
championship. So the idea of getting money on the best sound producer or something at the Oscars, it seems staggering to
I
me.
do love the Oscars, though. I will be giving that a bit of time, but that's really just recreational. That is my holiday for me, is spending a bit of time looking at the Oscars. But the other thing that I've noticed, people ask quite a lot about, being a professional gambler, and it's a question I get asked all the time is, do you pay yourself a set wage every week? And are you looking to make a certain amount? Do you sort of say to yourself, I need to make, whatever this week?
Well,
And I just think,
that's very important. In the reason I suppose you're saying that is because it's very important if you're an NFL bettor in the off season time. Think yourself, okay, I've been betting. Do I have to keep betting to keep the bills? If I go on holiday, I'll spend a certain amount of money. I come back now, I'm a bit short. Do I gamble to get the money in for that sort of quiet period?
well, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because obviously, I said to you earlier, the bets that I had on the NFL, I thought they were fabulous. I really, I'm betting things at minus $1.20, where I just know that they should be minus 160. They can still lose, and they did on Sunday, generally speaking. But I bet under 2.5 interceptions at even money. I mean, I found another book that had minus 162. I didn't play the arbitrage, but I did my money. But there were things like that. Um, Obviously, I'm going to bet bigger on those than I'm going to bet. No offense to Sean, but then I'm betting on his tennis this week, because his tennis this week is just kind of bread and butter stuff. I don't think the edge that I've got on the tennis, although I think Sean is good, I don't think he's doing very well. I'm going to be lucky if I'm getting a 5% or 8% edge on those games. But on some of those NFL bets, I felt like I was getting a 20% edge. So I must bet more on those. But that makes it very difficult to think in that way, in terms of, I need to win, $3,000 every week or something like that. That's not how I think of it. I just don't think of it in that way. I definitely think over the year I would like to make this amount, which means if my average edge is 2%, which is kind of roughly where it is these days, well, then I need to stake, X amount to win that. And generally speaking, the way I've chosen to do that is by having thousands and thousands of relatively small bets, because that keeps me in action. It keeps me going. I've always got something to look at. My brain is busy all the time. But more importantly, in terms of getting down, it just makes life a lot easier. If you're dealing with a bookmaker where you have a dozen bets of 300 in a day, and they think, they look at you like you're an idiot. And obviously you can have really big losing runs with people like that. If you just wait a week and go for the one that's got a 20% edge and have $8,000 on it, try going back for the third week. They're not going to want to do business with you.
I think the other thing you said there about people. There's people who say around and say to me, "Listen, I know a guy. I've retired. He's retired, and all I'm going to do is sit and bet, and I'm going to make £100 a day. That's what I want to do." So he's got this in his head. I'm going to make £100 a day. Well, his first bet loses, his second bet loses, his third bet loses, and now he's 60 quid behind on the day. His fourth bet, he looks for something at even money or minus $2, and he has £200 on that to get in profit for the day, and he only got to win 60. That loses minus 260.
Yeah, it's just a horrible way.
So then the second day he goes into the day, he thinks, well, I'll tell you what, I've got to win 360. I've got to win 460 today to get me on level for my week. It's a strategy. And if you make
it's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. You have to look at it on the month. You have to look at it on the year. And on average, if you're going to have losing days, you're going to have winning days. If you come with this purpose that I'm going to sit and I'm going to work all day, I'm going to make £100. You could be sitting on the computer till 3 o'clock in the morning, and you could be £3 down or $3 down, and then you've wasted your whole day. You'll have opportunity.
And also Saturday, and Sunday is when most of the sport happens. Those are going to be your days. I mean, for me, I quite often have quiet Tuesday, quiet Wednesday, and go bananas on Saturday. But then again, because of getting down and keeping my outs open, I like to give action in lots of events that are popular to bet on. I do bet in the Premier. I don't think I have a huge edge in it, but I try and give some action. Midweek, if you're a golf bettor, sometimes you should look at the card of 3 balls for the day or 2 balls and say, well, I don't really fancy much. There's only one that I kind of like a little bit. Other days you'll look at it and you'll say, well, there's 4 I really like here, and with people I can get down with, they happen to be a very competitive price. Well, those days you need to bet 5 times bigger. So that makes it very hard to think, well, I need to win X amount every day. I definitely don't think like that. And I don't think I've ever thought like that.
Well, there's a lot of people who do, There's a lot of people who think, if I can make £100 a day, I'll make money. And the other thing, and I know guys who make the 100 quid, who are very disciplined to make the 100 quid, that don't have any more bets. But they're missing out on
they might turn down great opportunities later in the day.
But they've got
that's
their money.
A very northern expression, put a nail in it. That's what they say.
They've got their way. They say, we've got my
whack.
I've got my wages for the day, and I'm done. And they miss out the opportunities. I think the thing is, you have to look at it long term. Anyone who, and I think if you've had an exceptional good season, whether it's or a poor season, whatever, I think my advice would be to take a week off. Then just go away somewhere, away from a television screen, away from a computer, feel completely refreshed, and come back. And you know what? I make more of my betting decisions when I'm not sitting in front of this computer. When I'm when I was out with you, Neil, well, I don't think I bet a loser. When I was in Holland, I didn't bet a loser. When I've been away for New Year, I sat, because your mind is free of televisions and social media and Twitter. I think sometimes you need to really, really sit there and just be focused on what is around you for a couple of weeks, and then come back and say, right, okay, the new season's starting, I'm going to do this, or tennis is starting, I'm going to throw my attention to this. But I think you need to, after a long year, you need some relaxing period of time. So if you are an NFL bettor and you're now searching, please watch Game Bet Match. I'm not saying you're not to watch Game Bet Match. Please watch WTA. We'll give you some good bets there, and the Premier League as well. We've got that as well. But if you had a tough season and you had a good season, whatever, just don't go rushing into the next sporting event, Have a couple of weeks, have a week off, think about it, rebase, and look at your figures and think, okay, I've got a good edge on this market. These boys are doing well there, and then discuss what you're going to do, because it's a long period of time to rest. And I think the recuperation time from long seasons is as important as the season in itself. Neil, appreciate it, mate. I know we're a little bit day later, this week because of the Super Bowl. I appreciate you coming on here. What has everyone got to do if they want to follow more content like this?
Well, of course, they've got to. First of all, if you haven't subscribed, what the hell have you been doing?
What's going on?
Hit subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Then you can join us every week. Do join us at the dojo. Press like, obviously, because that helps the algorithm. More people see the videos. And if you want to comment, if you've got any thoughts on that, should I take a holiday after the Super Bowl? Do you think I'm mad coming in? I mean, I had bets
only
yesterday.
if you've won. Don't go to the bank manager and borrow some money and go on holiday and get yourself in trouble.
Also, the whole mindset thing. Am I really rare with that? I feel like I had a winning Super Bowl, even though I lost quite a bit, because I felt like I won EV. I had great bets, and that's really my job.
I've tried to explain that to the missus over the years, Neil, and it doesn't seem to get the same response as that.
I'd be interested to see what people think about that, and whether anyone else has trained their mind to think in that way, or am I just weird?
I think
I don't know.
Many mornings after Monday morning after Wimbledon. How did Wimbledon go for you, darling? I had a brilliant Wimbledon, absolutely brilliant. I read everything right. The market move went brilliant, fantastic. How much did we win? Well,
we're moving house next week. We're downsizing.
Yes, we didn't win much. That's been it for the dojo. Thanks for your time again, Neil. I appreciate it, as I said. Thanks for everyone watching. Please hit that subscribe button. There is so much content coming your way on the Tennis Betting Weekly WTA with myself and Rory. Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Sean is over in Florida. You can follow him at our Instagram account at Because We Win. Some exclusive picks on there as well. And obviously it's a big week of soccer. Champions League on Tuesday and Wednesday. And the Premier League is back after an FA Cup week. And also extra time. The boys were absolutely on fire as per usual last weekend. And lots of content coming your way here. So if you want to have a look, if you're an American football bettor, have a few days off and then come here. We'll have you covered in the next couple of weeks. Take care and we'll speak to you all again next week.